Jallow. I am the Vice President for the Platform for the Empowerment of African Women. I currently live in the US, but I'm also Gambian. We are grateful to be hosting this oil and gas roundtable because it is an important event for us at Paaf to host. Why? Because we are an organization that works to empower women to fight for equality as well as equity. So the oil and gas industry is a male-dominated industry. So since we are an organization that fights for all of these three things I just mentioned, it just makes sense for us to host this event to let women know that this is an industry that you should be a part of, participate in, and take control of, because women control economies. Yes. So once you have a woman in a very high-level position, or even a woman who is economically empowered, that translates into the local economy or the informal economy moving forward to try to boost the national economy or the formal economy. So that is one of the reasons why we're hosting this event, amongst many other things. The other reason is to really challenge the governments of Africa, West Africa specifically, because oil and gas just doesn't impact the country where the oil is discovered, right? It is an industry that affects all of the countries in the sub-region, right? Because the economies in Africa are intertwined. So when oil and gas is discovered, all sub-regions and their economies are affected. So it makes sense to challenge governments to make laws that are equitable to women and young kids, to make laws and really set up institutions to teach young men and women that going into the oil and gas field is an option for you. It's just not, for engineers and machinists and so forth.
And what will happen the 27th and 28th at King Fahd Plus Hotel?
Right.
Really?
So what we're going to do is we are going to have civic leaders, stakeholders from the petrol and gas industry in Senegal, from Gambia, Mauritania, and some delegations from the US. What we're hoping to get out of those 2 days is to really talk about what can the industry offer to women. What can the industry offer to young kids who don't know what fields to get into? So once we have that, then we're able to also ask, how is this affecting Kumba, who sells fruit at the corner, right? How is this affecting the dry cleaner at the corner? Because when we think of those people, we don't think that they can participate in the oil and gas industry. But oil and gas touches every aspect of the social structure. I mean, there will be more houses, right? There will be more supermarkets, right? People are going to need more clothes. So it drives the economy. So on those 2 days, that's one of the takeaways we want people to leave the event with, thinking, how are we going to make these changes? And then, of course, we want the attendance workout really discuss what's going to happen in the workshops. What is the takeaway? But those 2 days are just 2 days. We're going to leave those 2 days and then follow up with the stakeholders and really challenge them and put their feet to the fire and say, we've done this, what are the changes we need to take? How are we going to implement it? How are we going to support these women and young kids that want to go into oil and gas? Are we going to set up some sort of a scholarship for kids that come from poor communities to be able to access that? So that's where the accessibility comes into play. So those are the things that we're working on. It's a tall order, but it's something that we think we will be able to achieve because everybody who are stakeholders have been very, very supportive. Maimuna mentioned the the advisor, the energy advisor to the president.
Sure.
I mean, he has been very, very supportive. You know, other partners have been very, very supportive as well. But I think this is also an event that we need to think of as an example for the rest of the West African countries. I am Gambian. We will be in the same role as Senegal is today in a couple of years. We would want this Gambian delegation coming in to really learn from their counterparts, get some knowledge, take that back to Gambia. That way, they can say, this is what we learned from Senegal, so they will be a little bit ahead of the game because they've seen how first players have done it, so then we can learn from it and make it much more effective. So those are the few things that we're thinking about.
Yeah. Sometimes they say that oil and gas can be very dangerous. How a woman can work about that without any problem?
So that's an interesting question, because oil and gas is not for women, just for men, right? It's just that us women have been socialized to go to more gentle, for lack of a better word, occupations, right? So a woman doesn't have to be on the oil fields if they don't want to, but they can be attorneys and so forth, but they should have the right and the option to go into the oil rigs, right? But safe work environments come into place, because you have to make it safe for the man, so it needs to be safe for the woman. So, but it goes back to education. Once we educate the women, they will know that it's not dangerous. Once we educate the husbands, the uncles, the brothers, because we need to have our partners, men as allies, to help us educate women and further this journey along, right? So it's about education. And we think that this event is a first step, right? The rest is coming. So it's a continuation of educating people, engaging people. But the other piece of what you just mentioned is sustainability, right? Because there's climate change, and people talk about how oil and gas affects the climate. So you can definitely institute sustainable methods to help also participate in the environment. Think about how do we have funds to clean up the oceans if there's an oil spill and so forth. That is an industry that women can go to. These young men and women who are getting out of high school thinking of what they want to do. If there's an option for them, they will definitely take that. And I think Senegalese youth are ready for it. Senegalese women are ready for it. So I think stakeholders, the government and institutions need to be ready for it.
Now, if you have
women, my advice to women is be open to new and interesting opportunities. Be open to things that are not what is normally known as your role, right? Because in the workforce, there is no such thing as this is a man's job. Every woman and man is capable of doing a job effectively if you have the skills, which is where training institutions like Madame Nyasi's institution comes in play, but that's just one. You need several. And that is something that I think giving them options and them being open and not being afraid and being bold to say, I want agency over my own life as well as what I want to do with my life and how am I going to affect change in my own community. That would be my advice to them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.